but I was miserable the whole time. Whereas the year prior, like I said, I wasn't as strong. I didn't feel as strong because I was so light.
Was just putting in the word with God. Is like, we are going to have a boy. He's going to look just like me.
Your kids look exactly like you.
Yes.
In my mind, a mousetrap's the most simple invention of all time. Is pull this back, use this to hold that, and then it works, right?
Yeah. Find that person who's going to be fucking with you and go to war.
Yeah.
Who's going to war with you because you're freaking broke and no one believes in you except that person behind you.
Yeah.
You want to be able to take her off to war and she have your back.
Yes.
My daughter is with 2 goats.
2 goats.
Yeah. Yes, 2 goats. So I'm here with my friend Colten Hussey. Colten Hussey, you were once a 315-pound man.
325.
325.
Yep, at my heaviest.
Correction. And then got all the way down to 210?
205.
205.
Yeah, 205. A little bit under, but 205. Yep.
Nice. So losing 120 pounds.
Yes, sir.
Yep. You are a hunter.
I'm a hunter. Yep.
You are upper management at one of the largest sporting goods retail store in the nation.
Yes, sir.
And you are a lot younger than me, so you're still in your journey of life.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm glad to have you on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. So for people that don't know, Colten is the person who I went hunting with the very first time, and then the second time as well.
Mm-hmm.
My first and second time hunting was out with Colten.
Yep.
And it was a 300-pound total goober who told me that he was going to teach me how to hunt. It was like, well, I didn't know anyone who hunted.
Yep.
No one in my family had ever hunted. And I was like, well, he's the only guy who I know who's willing to go hunting with me. So I wanted to take you up on it. I was like, if I can figure out a way to go hunting, I'm going. I don't care if this kid looks like he, is in a bad cop show where he just eats donuts all day.
Mm-hmm.
But I was in.
Yep.
I want to talk about how your mindset as a human has changed from going from 325 young kid to going down to 215 and what it did for your mindset to even kind of being where you are right now, being engaged and just the whole mindset of overcoming losing 120 pounds.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing that it taught me is that you can do anything that you put your mind to, right? It's kind of an obvious one. Yeah, life's tough when you're 325 pounds, softly lonely. A lot of people don't talk about it that way. And you can do one of 2 things. You can pretend. I think that's the big things. You can pretend that everything's okay and that it's good and it's cool. Or you can, grab life by the balls and say, hey, no, I'm gonna change my life. I'm gonna make a difference. And that's kind of what I did. I was living out in the Ruby Valley Marsh. I was working at a fish hatchery out there. That's when I was my heaviest. I went out there, I think at 310 and left at 325. I was eating garbage, microwave food every day, 3 days, 4 times a meal or a day, And I started watching some hunting videos. My passion's hunting, you know that, but my passion's hunting, and that's what everything really revolved around back then. And I just said, I don't want to be the guy who can't do anything anymore. And I put my head to it and got on the grind. Truthfully, a lot of it is because of you. We'd go to work together and we'd sit there and talk for hours about, what can I do better? How do I look at this better, right? How do I stop making excuses?
So how do you think that losing that weight has impacted how you look at yourself and how you carry yourself though?
Yeah, I don't make excuses anymore. Or when I do, I catch myself and say, hey, you're making an excuse. The things that I do to myself or the things that happen in my life are innately because I did them or I caused them. They're things that I can go and take action on. That's kind of how I look at life. It's made me a stronger person. It's made me a lot more confident in my decisions as well. And I think in not making excuses about everything, I tend to want to do things a lot more. I want to see them through. I I just say, hey, this is gonna suck, but I'm gonna do it, and I go until I'm done.
Yeah. So on the pod and social media, I like to talk a lot about masculinity.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think men are born masculine. They
Mm-hmm.
might have masculine attributes that they are born with.
Sure.
But I think part of masculinity is having to overcome adversity.
Mm-hmm.
And if someone hasn't gone through adversity in their life, especially a man, the day that it comes to punch them in the mouth, most likely they're not going to be ready.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that you haven't overcome the 120-pound loss, but then you did go up to a more healthier weight.
Mm-hmm.
But just the fact that you were able to do that,
yeah,
really, it's one of those things that proves to ourselves that, like you said, we really can do something when we put our mind to it.
Yep.
And culturally, we often want to make that excuse. We're an excuse-making culture,
mm-hmm.
especially right now. We want to justify everything. We want to make excuses. I like to say, food abundance is very new to the human body. Mm-hmm. It's very new to us as a species.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to a buddy today that we know from an archaeological standpoint that there was humans 315,000 years ago, exactly how we are today. And they were found in Morocco. Mm-hmm. That we might find some that's even older than that. But from 315,000 years ago to today, it's only been a very less than 1% of time where we've had an abundance of food.
60 years, maybe.
Yeah. So it's like we have quickly taught ourselves that discipline in the fork and knife aspect isn't something we need to adhere to, especially in the United States. Fast food, all the sugars, seed oils that just taste so good to us. But having to go from that weight down, do you think that it really changes your outlook on just like so many other things other than just your weight? Like you can overcome things from work. It gives you ability to overcome like relational adversities. Can you expand on, I guess, that a little bit too?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I guess we'll break down that first, right? Kind of like I said, it made me realize that I can do anything I want. So like when it came time for work, I was just a part-time kid, doing what, I was a boat technician. And then sat down with a guy and he's like, hey, I think you've got a future here. And I thank God every day for that guy because truthfully, it kind of helped me screw my head on tight, and I started holding myself more accountable at work. I started actually working, right? A lot of people, they show up to a job and they're there to clock in, clock out, take the paycheck home, right? Mm-hmm. Instead of going there with a purpose and a plan and, helping the business, whether it's yours or someone else's, and that you're just there helping, treat it as if it's yours, it's kind of what I do. My business is my life in a little bit. I've had to learn a lot more recently to make sure I make that separation. Now that I've got my lovely fiance at home, I got to make sure that I'm putting her first above anything else. Whereas prior to her, it was really easy to make work that number one thing, right? Mm-hmm. But yeah, looking at it's the excuse thing. That's really what it is. When things aren't going well at work or things are hard or I've got a problem in front of me, I know that if I just keep with it and I keep this end goal, I keep the end goal in mind, it eventually is going to work itself out. I'm eventually going to get there, but that doesn't mean that you're done. That means you find the next project and you just keep on going because, we talk about it. Good is the enemy of great, right? Yeah, we'll never settle for good. We're not finished until we're the greatest. And when you're the greatest, you're not the greatest, right? Mm-hmm. There's more that you can do. So.
Yeah, we are. I think we're, a nation of also complacency, which goes along with there's just food. We can just be complacent and eat. With the complacency, it's nice to meet people who want to break out of the complacency. It's, being comfortable is dangerous. You know, it's you're
Yep.
not as prepared, you're not as ready, regardless of what it's for.
The worst people I think in anyone's life are the people who are comfortable. People who are okay with settling down or stopping, never continuing to grow, whether that's like learning, that's school, that's a work path, that's trying to find a better job, that's fitness, even if it's just nutrition or building up your house, right?
Yeah.
If you don't if your group of people are the people who, no, I'm okay, man, no, I'm good, I show in, I clock in, I leave, I clock out, and I leave, and then go hang out at the bar after work, you're never going to succeed past that. You're going to be the guy who goes to the bar and that's it. That's what you're known about, right? Versus if you put yourself around people, truthfully like yourself, right? Who have the same drives, or you're never done. You always got to have something else, right? That's how you end up seeing the world. It's basically like I like to think of it as sunglasses. One sunglass can just be black and there's nothing in front of you, or there's one that's more opaque than the other. And if you put those on, right, you're going to keep fighting through adversity and you're going to keep pushing through and finding that end goal. But you always have to have those people that are driving you to be better humans.
Yeah. I mean, we go hunting together in this place where we hunt, at least mule deer. Where we hunt mule deer is a 8-mile hike in. And there had been a number of years where you were stumped. And it's very easy in our state to be like, I do not want to hunt there. Yeah. It has like single-digit success rate.
I think it's less than that. it's decimal percentage.
Yes. Yeah. Success rate. And you were like, I remember last hunting season, you're like, I'm not putting in there. And you put in for there, didn't drop, but then got a last first come, first serve tag to go there. And it's like, I got to go because it's that, like that kryptonite, overcoming the adversity of those mountains. Yep. And
it's embracing the suck.
It is exactly embracing the suck. It's going to embrace that suck until it doesn't suck no more, because there is victory.
Yeah. Well, how accomplished do you feel? Like, right, you're at the bottom of the mountain, you're staring in front of you, and you've got an 8,000-foot climb. Maybe that's a little overkill, but you've got a serious climb in front of you, and you can say, I'm not doing that, or you can say, wow, this is going to be something awesome to talk about when I'm done, right? And that's how we've always looked at it. So
and my point of telling that is just the fact of overcoming things. It's like missing out. The easy thing is to put in for an easier unit. You don't have to hike as far, but you were like, I'm determined to go and fill a tag in those mountain ranges, specifically this one area.
Yeah, I mean, for those listening, like if you don't know how hunting in Nevada is, it's a point game, right? You got to play the point game, and there's areas where you can turn and burn those points, like where we hunt. We can hunt every year if we want, or we can go for those easy tags and just sit there, and then maybe we're lucky if we get to hunt once every 6, 7, 8 years, right? And those are the easy tags. Those are the ones you can hop in your car, drive, and find a 200-inch mule deer 30, 40 yards off the road. Or you can find those guys 12.5 miles in the backcountry after climbing thousands of feet of elevation. So.
And having to hike to water. There is water, but having to hike to water every day.
Having to sleep through a thunderstorm where lightning's striking.
Multiple thunderstorms. Because it's northern Nevada, high desert. 100 during the day, 40 at night,
it
and
snowed
a thunderstorm
on us the first time we were there.
Yeah,
first time we were there, it snowed on us that first night. Yep. So.
Yeah, and the very first night in August or in September?
Yeah, in August. No, we were there when we were there in August. Yeah, it snowed on us the very first night we were there, and then the next day we were hiking, and it was like 85, 90 degrees outside at 10,000 feet of elevation. So it's wild.
It is. I love the adversity that hunting brings, and those kind of like primal instincts. The first time I did it, I just was like, oh, this is going to be easy. I'm going to freaking just be famous overnight. I'm going to kill all sorts of animals. And none of that happened.
This 20-year-old fat kid is going to make me the best. Yeah.
Yeah. I got this 20-year-old fat kid who's tagging along, and me never hunting before.
Oh, it's
you,
easy.
Just the physical presence of you. People are like, yeah, those guys don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Not at all.
And, but we didn't give up. We just kept going and kept going on more hunts. But I feel like hunting is one of those things that easily humble you, especially archery hunting,
Oh
because
yeah.
I'm an archery hunter. You're mostly, since I've known you, you've mostly been an archery hunter.
Yeah, most of my life. Well, most of the stuff I've hunted has been archery. So.
Yeah, and like those mountains, and the animals, their whole fucking thing is to survive.
Mm-hmm.
We have it easy that our wives can go to the grocery store and they're undefeated. They bring home meat every time.
Mm-hmm.
Except when you go hunting, it's not that. And we have this thing in the back of our head. It's like, well, we can always just drive home in our chariots.
Mm-hmm.
These AC, these AC cruise controlled vehicles.
Yep.
And the thing that drives me when it comes to hunting is could I survive in any era,
Mm-hmm.
in any era of time?
Yep.
And it's one of the things that, like, when I look at attributes of a masculine man, it's like, could he actually survive in any era?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's one thing to be able to like flourish right now in 2024, which I think is great.
Mm-hmm.
I take nothing away from those people, but it's like, could you thrive if you just keep going back every 100 or every 1,000 years? It's like, would you still be the top dog?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, is that rich guy, is he going to survive, when it's snowing on top of him and he has nothing but his, tree limb with a string attached to it and a couple sticks to fling at animals? The answer's probably no. But no, I think about it the same way, like masculinity side of things. If you look at a guy, not trying to be mean, but if you look at a guy and you go, man, if everything wasn't how it was right now, you'd be dead in an instant. Like, you kind of feel sad for him, right? That's how I felt about myself looking in the mirror every day. And now, I mean, maybe it's like a cockiness, but there's no chance I wouldn't survive if everything were to change. Because I feel confident in being able to take care of myself. Even if I don't have my bow with me, I can take care of myself, right? I'm big on, like, I've got a ton of chickens at the house, right? Bought a house this last year. Up to 25 chickens now. Talking to you about meat rabbits and stuff like that. That's self sustainability, right? And even if like I can't take those things with me, do I feel confident in being able to, my garden skills or things like that, or harvest skills? Yeah, absolutely. So
yeah,
just the survivability, right? Like, I got my gear, I got my stuff loaded, ready to go. I'll be fine.
Yeah, I have this hard time when people try to get close to me in my circle.
Mm-hmm.
I will judge them on if I think they could survive in other eras, and if not, it's like, do I want to associate myself with them?
Mm-hmm.
Because what are they actually doing to improve themselves even today in 2024? And if people aren't trying to improve their health, their fitness, their finances, their knowledge, books, looking at reading Marcus Aurelius, if they're not saying that they have to check all these boxes, but it's like, and their finances, what is at least one thing that they're trying to grow in that then can help me grow in also? And maybe I provide one of those 5 things for them, and then we have another buddy who provides one of those other 5 things, to where we're all constantly growing. And when people don't have an interest in growing, I don't want nothing to do with them.
Yep.
And especially if I look at them and there's like, you would not survive. I would ride in on horseback, fucking just murder your whole village. You would just be done.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I literally think that about people who I meet, not everybody, but like people who have an arrogance, or they have insecurities and they mask those insecurities by acting like they are tough. It's like, you are so lucky that you just get to go home to these things, that we live in the United States. We are just beyond blessed.
Yeah.
And yeah, the growth mindset is rare. And you proved to me that you were someone I wanted in my circle, when the fact that you were like, I'm going to lose weight. And it's like, sure, everybody says they're going to lose weight. With that fork and knife, it has a hold of you, bud.
Oh yeah, it does.
And then you started to lose weight. You know, you were like running, you were going to the gym.
I was training for an ultra marathon. I ran two marathons in a row in weekend to weekend, training for a 50 miler, and then the lovely COVID happened, shut everything down, and yeah, so that put an end to that. But yeah, it's very funny, like the fitness side of things, like it has changed a lot in my life. Like it's the goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
First, it was just to lose weight, and then it was to be this, buff, attractive guy, right? That was the thing. When I got down to 205, I was just shy of 7% body fat. It was really good, cool, and fun to look that way, right? And to feel that good. But then I was like, yeah, but I'm not as strong as I want to be, right? So I put on a little bit more healthy weight, right? And I felt stronger and stronger, and then I was about 240. That's truthfully where I felt like I was the happiest. I was the healthiest. Like I was super strong. My gym gains were improving, right? Like I was not only getting bigger, but I was also seeing an increase in the weights that I was lifting. But then my cardio game went to crap, right? I wasn't running anymore. So then you got to be like, gosh, I suck, right? And so last year we have an event, the Reno Tahoe Odyssey, and we ran it last year for work, and it was miserable. And I was actually in, I think, pretty decent shape last year, but I was miserable the whole time. Whereas the year prior, like I said, I wasn't as strong. I didn't feel as strong because I was so light. I was able to run it easy, right? Because I was focusing on some cardio things. But,
yeah. And so to you, what is the most optimal balance?
It's being strong, just like strength. Like I don't know how to explain that, but it's having strength or the ability to, you can tell your buddies, like when they have show muscles, right? Like you can tell them, you say like, oh yeah, but really, are you strong, right? Because the first thing you hear when somebody goes to the gym, you say, oh yeah, well, what's your bench, right?
Yeah.
Well, bench isn't an indicator of how strong you are, right? But we don't walk up and say, well, how toned are your six pack, right? Or how toned are your abs? That's not strength. That's physique, right?
Yeah.
Strength is like, hey, if you were to walk up to a barbell with 405 pounds on it, can you lift it up? Like that's strength, right?
Yeah.
And skinny Colten couldn't do that, right? Skinny Colten had muscles. Skinny Colten couldn't lift that, right?
Yeah.
He literally, I tore my hamstrings twice trying to deadlift, like just 325. Now, I mean, the other day I put 475, I think, on, and did it for 5. Like it was easy. So just kind of depends. Depends on your goals, what you're chasing, right? But yeah, strength's the important thing.
Okay. And then also hunting condition, which is a different kind of conditioning.
It's not it's not even close to the same. Currently got a lot of happy weight on, lovely lady at home. We like to hang out, and I've got a lot of happy weight on. So I'm sitting at about 260. I want to get back down to that 240 mark. I downloaded an app that's specific for fitness for hunters, right? I started day one and I was like, oh my God, I am nowhere near ready for this, right? Like as you start throwing in cardio and weightlifting and, throwing heavy things around, putting a pack on, walking with that pack, like I was a bitch. I was like, oh my God, I suck at this. I've been back at it for about 3 weeks now and I feel a lot more comfortable, but still I'm a sissy. I'm not ready for this. But I will be by August for sure.
Yeah. Yes, August. I mean, I love hunting. We could keep talking about that. But you mentioned the fiance. So you and I have talked a little bit, and I talk a lot on social media about how husbands need to lead their wives. If we want them to change in anything, it starts with us. Yes, there's exception of that woman who's married to a dud and she wants to improve her health, and she wants to improve her mindset, something, and she will go out and do it.
Sure.
But most likely it is the man who is going to make those positive changes or even negative changes and is going to take that woman along with, whether it's for the good or the bad.
Sure.
Being that said, you guys are planning to get married next year.
Yep, next year.
Is that something that you're often conscious about? Like, I have to be the one who's like leading this relationship and setting the example in order for a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
Because if a man complains that years down the road, my wife isn't that good of a mom, she's not that good of a wife, she doesn't even do these things, you know, I'm always, and it's like, well, we got to take that step back and actually be responsible and have that extreme ownership
Yep.
of like, well, how are we leading as men?
Are you leading by example? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's something I think about actually all the time. When either of us is unhappy with like our physical appearance or our ability to, you know, walk or whatever it is, like if it's hunting or if it's walking outside or working out in the yard, if either of us are unhappy about it, like I'm never going to blame her for, you know, how she looks or how I look or any of that stuff. But I want her to blame me because I'm not holding myself accountable. I'm not holding her accountable. I'm not helping her. And to what you said, it is our job as men to help those in our lives, the women in our lives, our wives. It is our job and our responsibility to help, to lead, to show them the way. Like that's how I look at life. Yeah, if you're not leading by example, if you're the guy following, like the example you used was the girl who's upset with her guy, and so she gets in shape and she's trying to drag along this bum. That girl's not gonna stay with that guy. That guy's a dud. Like exactly what you said. He is a dud. And when it's the opposite, always the lady is on board. She helps. She pushes. She wants to be there. She wants to be side by side. She's the partner, right? And that's the thing. I look at it as a partnership, right? And I think that's important to think of it that way. So,
with you guys being a younger couple planning to get married, what is some of the things that you do when it comes to like communicating about like important things?
I don't know. I would say we're working on it now, to be totally honest. Yeah. We're working on that, right? It's we are younger. I am almost 26. She is 25, just turned 25. We've been together for a little over 2.5 years now. But we're learning through it every day. It's funny because every situation, it's always something new, right? It's truthfully, it's never the same situation that happens over and over again.
Yeah.
There's continual growth, but there's also all this continuous learning. I'm trying to be better about listening more and speaking less.
Yeah.
And I was really, really disgusted with myself for a while because I got in this real negative mindset where I was upset with, well, why am I apologizing? This isn't my fault, right? Why do I have to apologize?
Yeah.
But I told myself to shut up because I was like, does it really hurt you to apologize and admit fault, even if maybe I'm not wrong, right? No, it doesn't, right? Because I can say, hey, I love you enough that we're just going to do this together, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a problem. Let's fix it, right? And I'd rather her be on my side than us fight ever, to be against one another. Like that's just, it's not going to happen. I won't let it. So.
Yeah, my wife and I, we've been together a long time, and it's always that continuous work. Because it could be the disagreements aren't always the same. So then sometimes they might have to be approached a little bit different, whether it's in regards to finances, whether it's in regards to our kids, how she feels that she wants to love and raise our kids versus how I feel like we should be loving and raising our kids. You know, those are different conversations. You know, having conversations about where our family's at, because we also want to adopt, but your family's in a really good spot. It's like, so do you want to mix that up? So then it's just those conversations. And Jordan Peterson, you know, he points out that like we are humans, so it's not healthy if you're in a relationship where you never argue.
No,
it's like then what is actually going on wrong as two humans who just don't argue?
Yeah. I love when he talks about that, because he says like the couples that don't work are the couples who either never fight or fight all the time.
Yeah.
You know, it's you can't be there. You have to be in the middle. It's okay to have disagreements. It's important to have disagreements, right? Because that means that you care about the other's opinion.
Yeah.
If you don't care about each other's opinion, you're never going to fight, or you're always going to fight.
Yeah. Part of my growth, so you were saying part of yours was, why am I apologizing? My thing was, when we were younger, is like, I don't care. This sounds like a you problem.
Yeah.
So I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
I have no interest. Like, don't feel that way. Problem solved. And I had to get to the point where, like you said, listen. So
Mm-hmm.
we have this thing for me where it's like, do you want me to solve the problem or do you want me to listen?
Yeah.
And we're at that point to where she will just tell me, not off the bat, but when I ask, do you want me to solve this or listen? And she'll be like, right now, I just want you to listen to me.
Yep.
And so it's like, cool. I don't say nothing.
We started that about a month and a half,
Okay.
2 months ago. And now, mind you, it is not where I'm sure you and your wife are at. It's, I very much have to remember to bring it up. It's like, hey, do you want me to listen or do you want me to have my opinion on this?
Yeah.
And it's good. It's not chauvinistic of me to ask that. I don't think. I think it's truthfully, it's really good because men, if you're a good man, you're a problem solver.
Yeah,
like
that's
you,
what we want to do
God,
by
we want
nature.
to fix everything,
Yeah.
right? And I think that's what's so cool about guys. And then ladies, they want to talk everything through, right?
They get emotional about it. They see
Yeah.
it from an emotional perspective,
Sure.
which is fine. It's how they were engineered, you know?
Yep.
We want to see a ones and zeros perspective. What are the facts?
Yep.
So yeah, and then there's times where my wife will say, I want you to solve this for me. That's what I'm telling you. It's like, cool. I feel like I'm really good at that.
Yep.
But there's times where she just wants me to listen, and then she'll expect me later to be like, okay, now I need you to tell me something. And it's like, okay. And then even when there is an argument, if she walks out the room mad at me, I'm not allowed to be like, all right, it's over. I'm good. No hard feelings to me, because that's what I used to do. She wants me to almost chase after her in a sense, even if she says she doesn't want to talk about it, to continue to talk about it, to therefore then resolve it.
Yeah.
When I used to be like, oh, this is awesome. She just left.
I'm laughing because, yes, that has also happened to us, right?
Yeah. And I'm just so easygoing that I'm like, oh, it's over. You know, I'm not going to hold on to it.
Sure.
But she's like, no, I'm holding on till like this is resolved, talked through. And so it is one of those things. There was at one point where she'd be like, we've been together so long, you know, not to just like let me leave, even though I tell you I don't want to talk.
Yep.
It's like, yeah, there's so many clues when it comes to women, but sometimes we're just too much of knuckle draggers to realize kind of how simple women can be. Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, our monkey brains, you know, we're just apes.
Yep. Truthfully.
Yeah. Cause trust me, when we were young and we were arguing, it was so easy for me when she would just storm out. I'm like, oh, this is over. Cool. I'm just going back to whatever I was doing, probably making food, eating, thinking about hunting. And then it was never good.
No. Well, because the problem wasn't solved. The problem comes back up later, right?
Yeah, even if it was something that I started, I could be like, all right, I'm over it. Because I get over things very quickly.
Same, yeah.
And it's like, okay, I'm over it.
Yeah, that's I would tell you that's probably me and my fiance's biggest thing is she's asked me a lot more to express the things that I get frustrated about. But to what you said, I forgive everything almost instantaneously. I don't hold grudges because when I was young, I did, and I realized it was the stupidest thing I could ever do. Got me nowhere. Yeah, exactly. No, I let everything go, right? Like, because the people that are in my life are in my life for a reason, and I don't want to hold anything against those people, because the people that I'm prone to hold something against, those people just aren't in my life.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care about those people. I don't want them there. But yeah, I'm really passive. I let a lot of things go, and I'm just like, yeah, I love her. It's okay. I know she didn't mean this to hurt my feelings, right?
Yeah.
And then we'll get in an argument, and it's something small, right? It's something small. I forgot to wash a dish off, right? Something small. And but to her, it's hey, this is something I'm serious about. I'm passionate about this, and I'm like, well, yeah, but I was upset about all these other things that I didn't even mention, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I've had to learn that, well, if I'm going to let those things go, I need to own the fact that I'm the one who let it go, right? I didn't bring it up, so I can't bring it back. So
yeah. You guys talk about kids?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. If it were up to me, we'd have 8 to 10. If it were up to her, we'd firm 2. Yeah.
Firm 2.
Yes. No, it's really funny. We have this ongoing joke where she's like, "We're having 2," and I go, "But I want kind of like 4 or 5." And I said, "You know what? We'll just settle in the middle with 8." And that's kind of our running joke that we have, because anytime anybody asks us about kids or what we've talked about, I'm always, "Yep, I want 8." She jokes, she goes, "Yep, he wants 8."
Yeah.
Feasibly, I know I'm never gonna have 8. I would probably freak out at that point, but I don't think 2 is enough. Like, I really don't.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah.
That's why we want to adopt.
Yep.
We have 2 right now. It's like, let's go buy 2 boys.
Yep.
2 more.
Let's bring them in.
Throw them
They're
in the
already
middle.
out there.
Yeah. Throw them in the middle.
Yep.
No diapers. We're good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, we, yeah. I don't know. I grew up in a household with 2 brothers, family of 3. I love that dynamic. I think 4 is probably a little bit better because you got 2 teams, right?
Yeah.
Instead of the one
2-on-2.
Yeah, the one who gets a little bit more left out, right? I just love that idea of 4. Another one that's funny that we've talked about is my entire life, like whether that's like somebody telling me this is how it's going to be, but my entire life I've only ever thought of myself having daughters, and she is like, "No, we're only having boys. Like, we're never having a daughter. I'm telling you that right now." And I'm like, well, I've only ever seen it this way, so I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen. But hey, who's to know? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we're both wrong and it's a mix. But it's always kind of funny.
Yeah, that is Laura, my wife, always thought she was going to be just a boy mom. Mm-hmm. She's like, I always pictured a boy mom. Me, I always thought I was only going to have boys because I was like, I mean, not that there's any real science behind this, but it's like my dad only had sons. His dad only had sons. Mm-hmm. Naturally, I'm only going to have sons.
Yep.
And when she was pregnant, when we would find out that she was pregnant with both of them, I literally was just putting in the word with God. It's like, we are going to have a boy. He's going to look just like me.
Your kids look exactly like you.
Yes. And it was like, they're going to look just like me. The first one, I prayed that his personality would be just like his mom's. Mm-hmm. And she kind of sometimes like, why did you pray for him to be like me? Because his personality is a lot like hers when she was younger. And then the younger one, I used to just pray that he was just a dog, just a fucking animal.
Yep.
And we
talked about this.
He's a little wild dog, and I love it.
Yep.
Just him like just howling and just being like rough and just he's a little animal. And then the older one, he's just so sweet. He really is. But I also think we do program our children. Parents program your children whether you think it or not.
Yep.
All your bad habits, they will have. Your few good habits, they will also have.
Yep.
And then there's going to be these little mixes of different things sprinkled all throughout who they are. Yep. And then they have to be truly conscious about what it is that they don't like about how they're programmed in order to change those things later in life.
Yep.
Otherwise, there are thousands of examples where you can just look at the parents, look at the kids. Oh yeah, you're like your mom, you're like your dad, and you guys, that sucks. Oh, you're like your mom, you're like your dad. They're good people. That's awesome. It's like, it's truly takes someone to consciously be like, I'm going to reprogram myself. So when I talk about the programming, it's like, Chance, I can still program him with love to end up understanding how to be an animal and whatever he wants to do, whether it's building Legos, whether it's playing chess, wrestling, football, the things that he likes to do, because they are programmable. Mm-hmm. We don't realize that we program him. And then Jackson, I just got to program him to understand when he just lets that little animal in him go. And then when it's like time to just be civilized. And I understand that there's a difference between those two. And I think that one of the things that I understand that is because I had 2 cousins who are 14 and 16 years younger than me. So I would babysit them a lot, kid watch them, not really babies there. My aunt was pretty old school to where she would lock them outside, shut the door, and be like, you're not fucking coming in this house until I call you in for dinner. So they were kind of feral kids,
Sure.
which was awesome because they were boys.
Yeah.
And their personalities were so different, even though they were 2 years apart, same mom and dad, 2 years apart to the month. Like their birthdays were 1 week apart, like literally 2 fucking years apart. But the one, you could yell at his ass because they were into baseball and they like played other sports and football and stuff. You could be like, don't ever let that guy tackle you again. You tackle that kid, no one scores. Don't fucking whiff on the ball, blah, blah, blah. And he would just be like, okay, I'll do it. And he would do it. The other one, you would yell at him the same way. He would just kind of look up, ignore you, have this go F yourself face. And he did not care and he wouldn't change it. You had to articulate, okay, you're going to have to shuffle and break down to make this tackle like this, or you're going to have to, rotate your hips and you're turning your wrists over to hit that ball when he's throwing that slider. Like, this is how you're going to have to do it. Yeah. And that would work with him. The other one, you could just freaking beat him like a dead horse into accomplishing the goal.
Sure. But
my uncle, he parented them both the exact same way. And it's funny because when we joke about it now, the one who was like, you need to articulate it to me, he's like, how did you notice that when you were so young and we were so young? And it's just like, I just have a thing that I pay attention to people.
Sure.
And he was like, yeah, dude, I'm still like that. Because they both play D1 baseball. And if the one has a coach who would yell at him, he's like, I just go into that F off zone.
Yeah.
Like, you need to just break this down, articulate what I got to do, step 1, 2, 3, and then I will do it.
Some people need the written plan.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And, we think that because they're all baked from the same cake, that they're just all going to end up being the same. But it's like they're not. And my boys are definitely different. They look copy and paste, but no, they are different creatures.
Yep.
Yeah, totally different. Yep. I mean, you had 3 brothers, all same parents. 3 of you guys are different, but there's a big,
drastically different.
Yeah, and you guys got a pretty big gap in between the third. Right?
Yeah, so there's 5 between me and the third, but little less than 2 between me and the second.
Yeah, and you guys are different. But do you think your parents just literally treated you guys all the same, like cookie cutter?
No, not at all. No. No. We were all different, and thankfully my parents didn't cookie cutter us, like in an aspect, right? Because it allowed us to grow in our own ways.
Yeah.
It's really, it's honestly, it's tough to explain because my middle brother, Tristan, is kind of more like what you were just talking about. Like, you got to kind of lay it out for him, right? Whereas like me, it was, I see something and I'm going to figure out how that works.
Yeah.
Right. I was the one who would argue with my dad. Like, we built our house growing up as a kid, right? We did all of the work outside. We did the chores, we did that kind of stuff, right? We were spoiled, but we still did all that stuff. And I'd argue with my dad about, he'd be like, hey, go do this. And I'd be like, well, if I do it this way, it's actually going to be more efficient. And he'd be like, oh yeah, okay, go do that then, right? Whereas the other one, Tristan, like, you would know, hey, go do this. You have to do it this way, this way, this way. We joke, we had to call and explain how to set a mousetrap, right? In my mind, a mousetrap's the most simple invention of all time. Is pull this back, use this to hold that, and then it works, right? Yeah. Not him. We had to send him like a YouTube video on how to do this, right? And that's how his brain works, right?
Yeah.
That's just how he functions. And then the youngest, he was always the fuck you attitude, right? You'd ask him to do something, and he'd be like, no, don't tell me what to do, and he's figuring it out. He's growing up a lot. But he's 5 years younger than me. I can't hold him to the same things that I hold myself to. I try to help teach him, lead him, those kinds of things in the best way that I can. But I've also learned that as much as I love him, he's not going to listen to me the same way that I can talk to other people about certain things. I have to express it in a way that he's going to understand. And it's continual. Him, it's I'd love to tell him once, but it's hey, you got to tell him 10 times.
Yeah.
But I'm very thankful my parents did not cookie cutter us, because if they did, oof, yeah, we'd all ended up probably pretty bad.
Yeah.
I think it's important to realize that there's differences in kids, and that there's in the programming aspect, right? I don't have my own, not yet, but it is something that I'm gonna do. Like my core morals to myself is: you treat yourself with respect, you treat others with respect, you work hard in everything that you do, and you do it to the best of your ability.
Mm-hmm.
My dad, like, thank God for him, because like he always taught me, like, whatever you're gonna do, it is worth doing right, because you should not come back and do it again. Do it right the first time. Don't half-ass it. Never do anything half-assed. And I tried to half-ass a lot of stuff growing up. Tried to go the easy route, right? Like the whole I'm gonna do things more efficiently also meant that I was gonna try to do it the easy way.
Yeah.
Right. And thank God he never let me do it sometimes.
Yeah, I remember your dad built a chicken coop, and he built one fucking
The
hell of a
Taj Mahal of chicken
hell
coops.
of a chicken coop.
Yes.
And it was like, that thing is nice.
Yeah.
He killed it on that chicken coop.
Yep. He is his brain, it's so funny how everyone's brains work differently, how everybody sees the world through different glass, right? He truthfully can build something in his brain and then put it to fruition. And he might not even, he's never built a chicken coop before, right? This, I'm not kidding, was the Taj Mahal of chicken coops. It had 2 different layers. It had a steeple on the top. Like, it had vents so that it vented properly. It had panels that dropped down so you could pull out the litter. It's just like things that none of us would have thought to do. But to him, it was, okay, I'm going to do this. This is what I wanted to do. This is how I have to do it.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I wanted to point out, you guys probably wouldn't have turned out that bad if you guys got cookie cuttered, because you still had the 2-parent household, which is like such a huge advantage in general.
Very much so.
Especially today with the statistics on single fathers, single mothers,
I work a retail job. A lot of my employees are very young individuals, and so I see a lot of different a lot of kids who've been raised differently, and you can see it, you can notice it. Exactly what you said: single parents, absentee parents, parents who just aren't there, iPad kids, right?
Yeah. Dude, the iPad thing is wild these days, because you'll see kids in car seats, so that means they're pretty young and small, with iPads just freaking glued to them. And to me it's sad.
We have a pretty firm policy that you can't have your cell phone on you at work, because we want our utmost attentions to our customer. And to have to tell a younger person that they can't have their cell phone on them, it's like, hey, you got to lop your arm off and leave it behind. It is that vital to these people, and they can't get it through. It's like, hey, you'll be okay. It's okay. But,
see, this is one of the things I love about hunting is, guess what? I don't need this cell phone.
There's no cell phone service.
Now, hunting is different than it was even 20 years ago, because of the maps, the digital maps that we have access to. But man, I love not having my phone. I try to leave my phone at home a lot, and my wife will make me take my phone. And I say make because she wants to be able to get a hold of me.
Sure.
She's like, what if this? And it's like, but there was a time where no one could get a hold of anyone, and we figured it out. She's like, but we have fun, so will you please just take it? And I love not having a phone, and that part. It's like, I could go back and I wouldn't miss the phone at all. Now, there is an aspect of the phone that has consumed part of my life where I will want to check social media. And so I've even gotten to the point where I have a 1-hour limit of social media on my phone. So if I blow it in the morning when I'm making my bacon and eggs, that's fucking it for the day. If I make it to the gym and in between sets we'll scroll and it's done, that's it. And I do a lot of work on social media, post on social media, and it's been so great to just put it on, hey, you can't look at any social media except for 1 hour of the day. And so then it's like, I don't even need to get on it, because I used to be that dude who would, every stoplight, what's happening on social media? What's happening on social media?
Oh, my fiance will tell you I am awful with that. I've deleted every social media thing except for one on my phone.
Uh-huh.
I need to put a timer on it because I catch myself doing exactly that. It's the, someone's trying to get a hold of me, or someone, something new is happening out there.
Yeah.
I'm missing the information, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of it, is we get caught in this, that there's the world is going on around me and I'm missing it, I think, is a lot of it. That's not what's going on. Right? Your world's of what's in front of you right now. So
yeah. So I'm sure you've probably thought I was going to give you a really hard time throughout various conversations about different things on this podcast, and I haven't yet until right now. You and your phone, when we're hunting and wanting to talk to your girlfriend or now fiance, holy shit, that would bug me. Bro, you got cell phone service up here? I wanna check in. I wanna call Danny. What about this mountain? We're fucking hunting.
Yep.
I don't give a fuck. Dude, you don't know how much I miss her, dude. And I was explaining to you one time, you have not experienced how much I love my wife yet. Like, you don't know what love is at the point where me and my wife are. And you're trying to indicate that you miss your girlfriend more than I miss my wife. You have no idea what you're talking about. And it's like, I know on this mountain, dude, you usually get cell phone service on this side. You mind if I check in with Danny?
Sure.
Oh, you have enough bars, I can FaceTime her. And it's like, bro. Yeah, so it's like, so I get when you're like, hey, I gotta just check in on my phone.
Yeah.
And it's like,
yeah.
And then, I remember you guys just young and in love. You're like, dude, but I love her. And it's like, you don't even know what love is yet, dude. Wait till you get married. It goes to a whole nother level.
Yeah.
And like, that's the part where I'm excited for you guys. Like, when you guys make that covenant, like, it is different.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
It is different, because Laura and I even had children before. And we were living together. We had our kids, we had our family. But then when we actually made the covenant before God and before our community, dude, it was different. I tell people, like, this thing doesn't come off. I could be deadlifting whatever weight, doing anything, doing my strongman competitions, hunt. This thing does not come off. It's my superpower.
Yep.
It's my precious. Whatever that ring is called, that's what this is for me. And it is, I think I even got like a nice little tan line.
Oh, you do have a nice little tan line. Yep.
So the getting married is definitely real when you have it based in something like how ours, we made a commitment before God.
Sure.
And then through before our community. Like, we made that. We didn't do it through the state. Like, oh, here's a piece of paper. Guess what? If you want to undo this thing, you guys can come back and we'll make all sorts of money off you guys. We'll meddle in your life forever and your children's life. We're ready. Yeah, it wasn't one of those things. It was, and she often thought it wasn't going to change our relationship, because she's like, we already live together. We already have children. And then we ended up having 2 children, a second one before we got married. And she will be the first to tell you, like, oh, it's different. It is different. There's just a whole nother level of like commitment, which is, it's one of the things, again, why I talk about like marriage, especially for young men. It's like, get married. Like, it is different. Like, even like getting married young, it allows you to grow up. And guess what? It allows you guys to mold each other into like one unit, being yoked, and you guys get to mold together. Versus if you get married late, you're already stuck in your ways. This other person, he or she, they're stuck in their ways, and it's going to be even harder. But when you're young and dumb and you can get married early, I say do it. You're going to mature.
Sure.
There's nothing that says, oh, well, you shouldn't get married unless you're making like $120,000 a year.
I hate that.
You already have your own house. You've already slept with X amount of women. You don't need to do that. And it's like, well, yeah, you don't need it. Well, when people say you should do that, I'm like, that's actually not very good advice. Anyone who calls themselves a believer, we'll talk to just them first. What in the Bible says you need anything like that? Anything. Nothing. And if you're a non-believer, you're going to base a relationship around material things. I think that's not a very good start.
No, yeah.
You know, find that person who's going to be fucking with you and go to war.
Yeah.
Who's going to war with you
Mhm.
because you're freaking broke and no one believes in you except that person behind you?
Yep.
You want to be able to take her off to war and she have your back.
Yep. No,
You
100%.
know, it's like that's one of the things I tell people to get married. And even parents think like culturally, like, oh, don't get married young. You're too young. It's this. And it's like, who's to say that?
Mm-hmm.
Look at our founding fathers, the average age of them. Madison was 23 when he wrote the freaking Declaration of Independence.
Yep.
Like Jefferson was in his low 30s, you know, everybody, they all were. Hancock, he was in his 20s. He was, I think, 24. Alexander Hamilton was 24. Ben Franklin, all of them were in their freaking 20s and they fucking started a country.
Yep.
They said, let's revolt.
Yep.
And then let's start a country. Oh, yeah, we're in our 20s. We averaged like 26, the founding fathers, like when you took all their age and averaged it out. And they weren't worried about like, well, let's not get married until we get this country thing started and it like really going. And then we'll all get married. We'll agree that we're all going to go find wives.
Yep.
Once this country's going for a while, though, you know, starts printing money.
Yep.
It's like, no. Find a chick who's willing to go to war with you and lock her down. And if you find a good one, I don't care how old you are, you got to lock her down because there's, especially in this culture, there's very few good ones out there.
Oh, yeah.
And the second there is, you let her go, guess what? There's going to be a guy smart enough not to.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah, it's, that is a thing that I didn't do it that way. But I never had anyone to tell me the proper way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, would I change it? No, because there's no such thing as a time machine. Elon hasn't invented that yet. Not yet. You know?
Emphasis on yet.
Yeah. If anyone's going to do it, Elon's the guy.
If anybody can.
But it's like, I want to be there for younger men to be like, hey, this is really what you should do and my advice for you. Mm-hmm. Because I didn't have anyone to tell me. I didn't have anyone telling me to marry Laura when we were 22 and 24.
Yep.
And then when we were 23 and 25, like when we met, you know, we went through our rough times. But I didn't have anyone who smacked me around and said, hey, it's not always greener on the other side. You found a good girl, you just lock her in.
Yeah. I was very fortunate to find Danny. Found her in a pretty rough time in my life. Like I was very down on myself, down on a lot of things. I felt lost and just had a lot going on, both family, work, personal, everything, right? Mm-hmm. You know, everything was gray. She came into my life and like changed everything. It's just, to what you said, like it's the person that goes to war with you. She is, if there's a war and I am the leader, she is my person right next to me 100%. Yeah. I know that because I have made mistakes while we've been together. And she has backed me up on every single one of them. She's like, I know you're wrong on this, but I'm still there for you. You know? And that's how I know she's the person. Right. And,
really quick, we should do a test. You know, those TikToks where like the mom or dad come in and say that the neighbors want to fight him and they got a little kid. Oh, yeah. You should do that. But hey, the neighbor wants to fight me and the wife says that she's going to beat your ass and film that. All right. So
that would
keep
actually
going.
Be really funny. Yeah. She's
like, what neighbors? We love our neighbors. And you're like, no, the new one. It's 3 houses down. We haven't met them.
Haven't met them yet. Yeah. They were talking.
Yeah. Total assholes.
No. Yeah. It was people ask about her, right? And because in our culture, exactly to what you said, it is not common for people to be 25 and, you know, live together, own a house together, be married, or to find each other like that. And everybody's like, yeah, you're in your 20s. Like, that's what people in their 30s do, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I have friends who tell me that. They're like, dude, you're not even 30 and you want to get married already? It's like, are you kidding me? I love this woman. I was like, of course I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, we moved in together at 3 months. Like, we had only been dating for about 3 months. I could have proposed to her the next day if I really wanted to, because it just was, I just knew. Mm-hmm. It was so funny because I remember telling myself, like, falling into the trap of, you can't do that yet, right? You haven't been dating her long enough. You might not, might not work out or whatever. I really wish I wouldn't have done, listen to myself. I wish I would have, did exactly what you said. But I also do, I think it's important to talk about like finding the right person, right? Like that you got to find the person who goes to war with you, because you don't want to end up in a situation where you make a promise to God that you're going to be with this person and that person's not on your side. She's not the one who defends you, because what do you do in that situation?
When I think generally speaking,
Mm-hmm.
you will know that in the beginning of even associating with them.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
you can tell, like, in human intuition on another person. Generally speaking, there are the exceptions. Oh, this fucking chick tricked me.
Mm-hmm.
You know if they're going to be a good person, if they're that person, and if the feelings are genuine back.
Yeah.
So we know, generally speaking. Forgot where else I was going to go with that, but
It's okay.
But yeah, finding that person is and also like the whole thing about like dating for a long time and then engagement for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
That's also a thing that is just American culture, that was just made up through American culture.
Yeah.
Not saying that we need to do what like Buddhists do, where you never see each other till the day you're walking down the aisle and the dads are over there making like wagers,
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, you're going to pay me this much for my daughter. If he divorces her, you're going to owe me back X amount.
Mm-hmm.
Even some Jewish traditions, they'll do that, where I think it's not a dowry, but it's where if the husband breaks up, then you're going to owe me some sort of money.
I mean, I can't speak to that because I don't know, but I mean, it's like, back in the past of how many goats are you going to give me to
Yes,
marry
my daughter is worth 2 goats.
2 goats, yeah.
Yes, 2 goats.
Exactly. It is, yeah, thank God that's not what we do, right?
No, but it's like we have the ability to choose.
Yes.
But 2, I think we've prolonged this thing so much that it's like almost that you don't need to have the commitment, because it's like, oh, we can just date and just fling and sleep around, and it's like being normalized. And then I've known I can probably, if I really, really thought about it, I'd count on both hands people I know who've been engaged and they've just broke it off. It's like we just live in this culture of ease where we can just kind of break things off, and it's like not that big of a deal.
Fight through the hardship.
Let alone people my age or younger who I know who've been divorced. And it's like myself and David Wise I'm going to actually release his podcast after yours, but I talked to him before you. We were talking about how like people will say the statistics for Christian divorce and non-Christian divorce is virtually the same. One's just a hair better than the other. But he's like, when you break down the Christian statistics on divorce, it's like there's a giant population that call themselves Christians, and maybe they go to service on Easter Sunday. Maybe they say that they believe in Jesus, but does that actually qualify them as a Christian? And they're not actually like trying to improve, like how in the very beginning, just any improvement in their life around even the faith. But he's like, when you actually break it down to the people who are married, and that covenant is with them and God, like the Trinity with them and God, the divorce rate is almost like is so minute, it's not even like on the radar.
Yep. Yeah, it's the percent of those who pray together.
Yep, the
so
pray together.
Small. To ever fall into the divorce rate. So
but we like to just ease that it's just like casual. It's like, oh, it's a serious boyfriend almost, that you can just marry someone and then just like, this isn't working. And then we don't want to have to go through the hard part of like actually working it out, but we made a commitment. Everyone says to death do us part, but like, no, everyone's like, but that's not real. Fingers crossed behind the back, which is sad, because if we took it more seriously culturally, how many families would be broken families?
Yep.
If we took it more serious culturally, how would that compound into the generations and generations, and where would we be culturally as a nation?
Mm-hmm.
What would we be doing? What would our focus be on? Would there be just all these men who are into porn, drugs, crime? There's so many things that we can look at the source of like how important a nuclear family is.
Yep.
Regardless of the faith, but like nuclear family.
Yep.
Because culturally, if we're believing this, even people who aren't of faith, naturally just things are going to rub off like, hey, we make commitments. This is what we do.
No, 100%. It is, yeah, I don't know. I think about it actually quite a bit. Talk with a lot of the people I work with about it a lot of, what this country is going to look like in, 10, 15 years, even, maybe not even 5 to 10 years, just if we continue down this path that we keep going, where it's exactly what you said, like people of my generation who, they don't stick it out. They don't talk about it. Like they don't try to fight for one another. They don't hold each other accountable.
Yeah.
It's sad. It really is. Me and Danny, we, even like when we first started dating, like we both sat down, we had conversation, and I remember telling her, I was like, hey, like, I this isn't just dating to date. This is, I'm trying to find someone I'm going to spend my life with. And going forward, we don't talk about breaking up. We don't talk about divorce. We don't talk about any of that.
Yeah.
It is me and you, or me and you just aren't for each other.
Yeah.
And it has always just been me and her.
Yeah.
Like I've never ever questioned her, never questioned, if she loves me, or I know she doesn't question that on me. It's just, we're there for each other, and we always will be. And it's, what can I do to strengthen that? There is no doubt. There is no question.
Yeah.
That I'm in her corner.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I think we should end it there.
Cool.
Yeah. We'll do a part 2.
Let's do a part 2.
And then
I love talking. You know that.
part 2.